我们是数据管理专家，我们对您的数据防护、还原有着非常专业的解决方案。
Hello and welcome to episode 71 of Great Things with Great Tech, the podcast highlighting companies doing great things with great technology. My name's Anthony Spiteri, and in this episode, we're delving into the evolving landscape of backup solutions, data protection, and the influence of AI technology in that space. That company is BackupNow, and I'm joined by Albert Fu, the CEO and co-founder, or founder actually, of BackupNow. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Anthony.
So,
it's
hey, Albert,
to be here.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you on because it's a few firsts for me on the show. Firstly, it's a first in having really someone representing Asia outside of an Australian company. And number two, I think just having a Chinese-based company as well is quite special because there's all these sort of differences and nuances with the way that China does things. So I'm really interested to get into that. But just before we talk about backup, China, the state of the market, and a few other things that you offer, I just want to give out a reminder that if you're a fan of great things with great tech and would like to feature on future episodes, you can click on the link on the show notes or head to GTwGT.com and express your interest. As a reminder, all episodes of GTwGT are on all renowned podcasting platforms, Google, Apple, Spotify, all hosted and distributed by Spotify Podcasts. And finally, go to YouTube, hit the like and subscribe and alert button to make sure that you are up to date with all future episodes. So, Albert, with that out of the way, maybe just give an introduction to yourself and a little bit of an intro into your journey into technology in China.
Yeah, sure. Actually, I've started to work at 2006 and actually working for an American company in China. And I'm in charge of all the IT departments and the data center in China region. And during the technology passed in the recent years, and most of the data center moved to the cloud. So that's the things that make like the revolution of the technology. The people all think about, is that possible? We will need to maintain all the data center by ourselves? No. So the cloud services or cloud technology will be popular in China started from the 2014 or 2015. So during that years, I plan to just to do my own business about the cloud services and maybe the cloud architecture or the cloud migration. So I have to start my team and from 2016, and we start at Microsoft Azure because both of us are from the Microsoft Training Center, and we're the Microsoft Azure architects. So from the 2016, we touched the cloud business, and it's very funny. We always work with the data migration, data recovery, and data mover to another cloud maybe. And so from that time, we are thinking about it, that have a opportunity, or we call the product can help us easily to maintain our hosting data and hosting services and provide to our customer. So we have a touch of the Azure, we call the Azure backup server at the first time, and it's not that powerful. And we continue to touch with Veeam from 2019, and it's getting shocked by our technical team. It's really shocked, and they have many power functions for us, like migrate the local, the VMware data center to the cloud, and we hosting and we're using the orchestrator to do the DR, and everything looks perfect for us. So that's why we to make our business from just the cloud hosting to data protection expert. And in just for last year, we found actually when our business growing, we find the main label and the AI get how to say computation. Both of us in China, we think about it, that possible we're using the AI to do some job instead of the manpower. So we started to in touch of this area. That's why we have a little bit AI development and in our products. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's our company.
That's a good explanation overview. Okay, podcast over. No, just joking. Let's step back a little bit to I think just before you, I was interested in something that you said about how you became, you worked for a big American company and then you focused on Azure services in China, which and people that don't know a bit of the differences and the nuances of the China market. Maybe just give a little bit of a background very quickly as to what is different, because the public cloud and the services there are very different for obvious reasons in China to say outside of China. Maybe give a little overview as to the basic differences, and then I've got another question for you after that around how you then learn and become a specialist in that market.
Yeah, no problem. Actually, between the China and the overseas cloud market, that's quite different. In China, we have many cloud provider, many. So that I mean that the all-in-one, actually, they have hosting, they have a computer, they have the GPU resource, and having maybe the data storage resource in the public cloud. And they have many of them, over maybe 20 cloud providers.
20.
And they do the competition a lot. And actually, they didn't go deeper in the technology development, but how to say, to compete the price. Everyone is about to make the price lower and cheaper to earn the market, but actually it's not that stable and solid. So compare with the overseas, we can know like the Azure, AWS, and Google, they are top three maybe in the overseas market, and they have the huge customer to give them the how to say the money to grow their business. But in China, each of the cloud providers they're surviving. It's not that good because maybe only Ali Cloud, we call Ali Yun in China, and Huawei, and also China Telecom. These three maybe they can do that better to earn the market. Rest of them, like the Tencent, like the Baidu, they are not that really good.
Interesting. Yeah, so it's not the same market landscape as what is outside of China, but to a certain extent, it's sort of the same in that there's lots of other providers that are tier 2, tier 3 providers that I would call them, that basically take up the slack from what would be the top providers outside of China. So again, Azure, AWS, and Google, obviously from a public cloud perspective, dominate worldwide. But from what you're saying, in China, they don't dominate as much because there's a lot more option, right? And then there's that potentially, is it a people thing? Is it just the sheer amount of people, businesses, or is it actually a trust thing, or what actually drives that behavior in China?
That quite a little bit complex for that. In China, actually, until now, maybe half of the customer didn't trust the cloud. They think cloud is unsafe. Why? Actually, I can totally understand the reason they didn't trust the cloud, because in the overseas, like an overseas company, maybe an Australian company, when they want to go to on cloud, they have a technical team to help them to design the architecture and design the security, and to let them to know how much you should pay for the entire year and what kind of resource you need to use. But in China, no. When you buy a cloud server or multi-application on the China cloud, you just buy the server like buy something on the eBay. You just click next, and select how many CPU and how much RAM, and that's all. You have a server. Public the RDP port on the internet. So they have been attacked many times. So they think that the resource is unsafe, but it's that unfair for the public cloud provider. So that's why you asked me about that question. I think in China, the cloud services requirement are increase every year, and the people still think about cloud, and it's not that solid and stable
Yeah.
because
And so,
of the. Sorry, you go ahead.
I was going to say, is that just through as well, Chinese customs, business practices, consumer preference? Is that kind of why you are able to be so successful in the market and do very well? Because, the traditionalism of what people think in business leads them to someone like you over a more traditional public cloud powerhouse.
And actually, that's the key point in the China market for like the company like us. Normally we should provide the professional service for our customer, and in China the kind of the how to say like the old saying way, the service is free. The product is you can pay, but the service you need to provide in free.
Yeah.
So that's why nobody want to do that in free. And that's why sometimes it's just buying the cloud resource. And most of companies like us, they cannot survive very good. They don't have the money to pay for their services, to pay for the engineer. So that's the problem.
Yeah. And going back to the engineering and the services, and you mentioned at the start an academy or a place where you learn Azure. So in China, when you're growing up and you want to be in technology, what's the path? I'm interested in the pathway. Like, how do you go into a program where there's multiple people, like thousands of people learning the one thing in an academy, then you all come out in the same way, or is it more individual? How does that work in China? Because I know how that works in, say, India and a few other places, but I'm interested in China.
Oh, that's very interesting. In China, we have some academic school, and they can to teach the how to say like the university students or the college students for the maybe like the Cisco, like the Microsoft, Red Hat, and they have some lessons and they can have the certification for that. And normally they get the how to say to pay for the tuition fee and the exam fee. They can get that, and the rest of them they don't have time to go to the school or go to the training center. So they will learn by themselves. They can learning online. And in the past 3 days about the how to say the pandemic of the COVID-19, and most of them then they get very suitable for the online training. So they can train the how to say like the Microsoft, the Red Hat, and VMware, Cisco, even Huawei. They can train the people online. So they see that online is a pretty good solution for the trainer to learn the skills.
Yeah. And I think that lends itself. I know that China has a very thriving startup culture now. Tech hubs in Shenzhen and Beijing. And I know there's a Chinese philosophy of fast following, where you quickly adapt and improve upon existing tech innovations. So is that drilled into you as a young person going up the ranks as well? This whole concept of we must be innovative and we've got to be technically advanced as a culture?
Actually, no. And from the technical side, sometimes I like an engineer of us, and we think about to learn how to how is the world growing their technology. Like we need to go out and see what kind of technology in the outside, and the inside actually it's not really much. And in China, their main kind they always think about we want to keep safe. Everybody should be safe.
Yeah.
And we wanted to keep the world safe. And in China mainland, sometimes we think about we can travel all the world and we can travel all the China area, and we don't need to worry about that. But
Understand.
yeah, as how say a Chinese citizen, to be honest, China is pretty safe. And but the technology, yes, you're right. The technology, and because the country and the policy issue, most of the foreign company or the tech company, they stop working with the China local company, and most of them we cannot get the like how to say the technology skills as soon as possible. So we need to learn from the outside. And yes, that's happened. It happened from the 2019, and most of us stopped working to learn because they don't have the resource. So that's the problem recently happened in recent year in China local market from the technical side.
Yeah, so the market isn't without challenges, and domestic competition seems like it's very stiff. There's lots of competition because there's lots of just by sheer volume of population, companies and whatnot. So what do you think is different in the China market from the point of view of competition versus the outside the world?
Actually, as the company runner in China, and we needed to fix the problem in the China market. And recently, the China market is divided into two parts. The first part, you're doing the business with the government or the government-related company, and you need to provide everything in the how to say we call it like everything built in China, everything made from the China company, like the software, hardware, chips, everything. That's for the China market part. Another part, China is open country. So that means the foreign companies still here. We need to do the business with this part. And most of them, they don't want to use the, how to say, like the Huawei product or the everything still in the Dell or the HP. Yes, that's the situation we have. So we need to prepare the product for the two part of the business. So most of the China, say the reseller or the product manufacturer, they change their how to say their vision or their technical development to focus on the how to say we call it the China-made chips, this area, because the government want that, and the government can pay that much, and the deal will be high. So that's why if you want to earn money in the fast speed, you need to do something related with the China government or the China government related company. So that's the situation.
Yeah, and how does that then impact say for yourself and BackupNow? How does that impact your ability to interact with foreign partners? As an example, obviously you mentioned Veeam. We know that's why the conversation is happening now. But just in general, do you have to think about how you productize certain technologies because of that, or do you kind of go, yeah, the government does one thing, but I believe that I can still do something better or equal with foreign technology, so I'm gonna hedge my bets and go two ways effectively.
Yeah, sure. Actually, that's the thing we started to do that in the last year. Actually, from last year, we need to fix the market. We cooperate with Veeam. So that means actually, if you're using the Veeam engine to provide the backup services, the China market will, the China customer will ask that question: is that your engine safe or secure? And I say, okay. So actually, Veeam product is much more transparency product. They don't have some backend or the backdoor for that. And that's first thing. And second, the data is saved on maybe Huawei data store. It's not on maybe the Dell EMC.
Yes.
So that means the engine just like a worker to move and do the job, and your treasure, your data like a treasure still in the how to say your chip, in the Huawei storage chip. So it's made in China. So your data still safe.
Yeah, and that's what I think is the point that I'm trying to get, is that obviously there's a compliancy and a government push for the data to be generated and secured and stored on Chinese technology. So as long as it ends on a Huawei system, as an example, then that's a good thing. And you're basically leveraging other technology partners like Veeam to move the data, but it's not seen as a critical component for the compliancy of the storage of that data. So in that sense, you can benefit from both worlds, basically.
Yeah, that's the thing. Until now, we can do that, and maybe in the next year, we still do the developing for that. In the next year, we are trying to do like some backup agent process, and maybe in the how to say our own coding. So that's why we can provide this coding to the government, let them to check if that's safe enough. And we can use that process to cooperate with the Veeam engine to
Yeah.
do some, how to say, backup from their, maybe the China local HCI platform to read the data and grab the data to our backup repository. So that's the thing that we call it to change our way to win the business with the Veeam. And so that's the things that we're doing right now.
Yeah, it sounds really good. And I definitely, the second part of this episode will be about, your products and what you do and what you offer. But just to finish off the conversation around China and the market, again, it's very fascinating to chat about these things with you. What would you say is your biggest challenge or inhibitor, being in China and understanding that you're primarily focused on your Chinese market. And that's one thing, and Chinese customers and businesses. But you need to think bigger picture worldwide with regards to how you bring your technologies to market. So what would be the biggest challenge that you face, being a Chinese company in a global world?
To be honest, actually, if you just only a China company in China, that should be fine right now. But if you're doing the business in the overseas, even in the Asia Pacific area, they still have a little bit problem, like your transfer currency, like how to say you pay overseas, because China government have very strategy, how to say, the foreign currency payment policy. I cannot just receive the foreign dollars directly. I cannot pay them directly. I need to go apply to pay and apply to the, how to say, like the currency control bureau, let them to know I need to pay the money for the overseas. So we have some business doing in the Malaysia, and they pay us the US dollars, and after a month I can receive it. I provide a punch out the document. So that's the thing. It's just a China only owned company. It's very hard to do the business in the overseas. And the only way we can to solve this problem is we have to open our branch office or the, how to say, another company or the, how to headquarters move to the overseas, like the Singapore.
Yes.
So that's the thing some company already did before. And we are trying to find a way to solve problem. And actually, we hope everybody on the earth can be safe. And we don't want to see many wars, so we can doing the technology business very good. I really missed that maybe from the 2010 to 2018. That 8 years really got me shocked, and I learned and started my job, and actually to started my own business in those years, and it's pretty good. But recent years, I know we cannot change the world, but we hope to do something good for the world.
That's really good. I love that way of thinking. It's really commendable. So let's talk about the business now. We've talked about China and everything, but let's talk about what you guys do in BackupNow and what your product SupVault and whatnot. So just give a very quick overview of the services that you offer, and then we're going to focus on obviously the backup and disaster recovery part of that. Talk about the AI that you're putting into the technology, and then also the amount of. I'm very taken aback by your volume that you're storing. It's petabytes, right? But just start off by saying exactly what BackupNow offers and a general overview of the company.
Sure. The BackupNow, actually, we provide like the BaaS and the trust platform in China region, and we cooperate with some data center and like the telecom companies, and we can provide the service for the backup as a service for maybe the SaaS service like the Office 365 backup, endpoint protection, and the cloud server protection to our data platform. And SupVault is our edge appliance. It can be the how to say backup and restore all-in-one machine, and also it can be the one accelerated machine in the client side. They can back up and move the data to our BaaS platform. Also, they can be the incident recovery edge appliance in our customer data center. They can fast in the rapid speed to restore the services for our client. And now we have the, how to say, I just checked today, 2.7 PT to PG.
Wow. Okay, that's big.
And yes, and actually, it's based on the 3 years. We started maybe zero to that, and yes, they grew very fast because it's recently, you know, some kind of the customer to increase the big data, and they have bunch of data. And also we have some customer like say they have the joining the 3D video, they have to need to store the data. That take a lot of the things to that.
Yeah. So okay, so a good breadth of services there based on backup, DR, and you also do do you do consultancy as well? Is that part of the job there, or?
Yeah, for sure. In China, when we're doing the AI, actually, we need to consider about the consultant services for that. People always asking, however, if I want to back up the data and to the cloud, can you help me to do the consulting about the cloud structure? And I said, okay, no problem. We have the team to do that.
Yeah. So how big is the team? How many employees do you have?
Actually, we don't have that much bigger. We have about over 30 people, and
30.
we have about 15 to 17 engineers in the headquarters, and we
Okay.
have two companies in the China West. The one is in Chengdu, another one is in Lanzhou, and because China is huge, so
Yeah.
we need some branch office in the whole of the China.
Oh, that's nice. Okay, so you've got about 30 people, but roughly half of those are engineers. And then how many data have you got? Multiple data centers that you're in for your services?
Hmm. Yeah, actually, we have to have the data deployed in Azure China East, Azure China North, and AWS North and AWS West in China. And also, we have the data center hosted in China Telecom. We call it the China Telecom Cloud.
Hmm.
And we have three of them, and each of them have the about a 203 PB storage already deployed, and the 30 or 40% has been used already.
Yeah. Okay. And that storage, like you mentioned, is it all Huawei storage?
Yet normally we deploy in the telecom data center, we were using Huawei appliance hardware. So
Yeah.
that were more legally and it's very easy to earn the business in China government companies.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Sometimes they want to store the data in their local brand storage. Okay, I can provide.
And did I see that have you got areas outside of China as well? Is there some data centers that you hold as a target outside of China?
Yes, we have the Azure and AWS hosting data center in Singapore and Hong Kong. And now we're trying to deploy some BaaS services platform in the Azure Japan. And that's the thing we have.
Okay, that's pretty cool. So okay, so you are branching out, and typically, who are the customers that would want to use your backup or DR services in Japan, in Hong Kong, or in Singapore? Is it customers outside of China, or are they Chinese customers who have got presence in those particular regions?
Yeah, most of them is China. There are two kind of the partner. We call the China overseas customer, and another one is the how to say the foreign company in China. The first one, the China overseas company, like some game company, they're doing the game and they want to extend their market to the overseas. So they want to rent the server in the maybe in the public cloud in Asia. So when they deploy the server in the maybe like the Azure or AWS in Japan or in the Hong Kong, Singapore, they need to do the protection. So we provided the protection and about the local data regulation, the backup data should be stored in the local data center. So
Yes.
we're using the how to say maybe the Azure Japan or the Singapore and the Hong Kong data center to provide it to protect their data. And the second part is about the foreign company in China, like the Hitachi, like the some company in China. They're Japan company, and they have the factory in China, and sometimes they want to store the data in China locally, and sometimes part of their product sold to the Asia area. They want to deploy some application in the overseas. So when they do that, of course, the data need to store overseas. So we
Yeah.
have to provide it. So that's the two part we use.
Pretty awesome that. Look, the fight, I saw that in 2020 you had 500 terabytes, so you've grown, and then in 2022 1.5, and now you said 2.7 petabytes. That's big. Like that's significant. I know worldwide numbers, and that number is not insignificant. So what's driving most of that core usage of your storage platforms?
Actually, when we're doing the BaaS, normally we think about our customer should from the SMB area, because the how to say the big enterprise they were using another story. So when we're doing the SMB, we are trying to focus on who has the most quantity of the laptops, and we found like the lawyer company and how to say some service company, import export company. We're trying to find them and say, okay, you have about 100 PC need to backup. Okay, I can give you a backup, and we have set out the package and let them need to move the data to our data center. So after that, we found it's very cheap and cost saving solution for them to back up the data. We have tell them how to say their maybe other customer. So we have more and more opportunities for that. So that's why it's drawing the more and more customer to our sales team. Then we have the data to income.
Yeah. So you can be competitive on price within China, probably more than what, say, other providers in different regions can be against the public clouds because of the nature of the business. So you can drive a much cheaper dollars per gig price than others. What is roughly, how much is your storage at the moment, out of interest?
1 TB should be 3,000 RMB per year. And actually that's included maybe the license.
Oh, okay. So what does that work out to US dollars? How much rough US dollars?
US dollar should be less than $400.
Okay.
Less.
Okay. So and people still are very good on providing that. That's awesome. That's really good. I think that's a good price point to be at. Okay, let's talk about, you mentioned AI, and 2023 wouldn't be a question without AI. So how are you leveraging AI in your backup technologies? Do you leverage it across the board, or is it in SupVault specifically, that appliance that you talked about? But how are you leveraging an AI into your services?
Yes, actually, from last year, we are considering to hire an entire, we call it after sales service team, and that might be increase the number to 10. So 10 more people come in, we have to do just for the services. That will be a huge amount of money to pay. And we started using the OpenAI platform, and how to say, we think about that is a good way to try. So from last year, we're trying the OpenAI, and actually it's from the Azure. It's not the GPT. Sorry, we're just using the OpenAI directly from the Azure, and we build our own, how to say, the programming and the coding, and we related to get the services, our contents and the materials that also include our, how to say, the data sheet, and let our customer to know easily to find. If I want to back up the things on the SupVault or back up some things on the BaaS, how much should I pay? So the AI will tell them how much should they pay and how many workloads they need.
Okay.
Like the things that you have in the Veeam. So we did that.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Keep going. Keep going.
Mm-hmm. So that's things that we need to do that, like the chatting bot before. And in this year, we integrated the chatting bot to our platform. And we are trying to do that, like how to say, in China, we have the chat message like a WeChat, and we moved this thing to the WeChat. And the people always like to finding some solution or finding some contents from the WeChat. So we can give them the portal from the WeChat. They can log in and check. what is
Very
the best practice for backupping the data or restore the data.
How cool is that? Because I think people probably don't understand WeChat, or probably haven't been exposed to it, don't understand that it's more than just a chat program. It's a platform, right? And a lot of companies will write direct integrations. It's almost like an operating system in a way. So is that what you've done? You've plugged into WeChat to create some sort of application on top of that to get your customers a little bit more connected.
Yeah, that's what we did. And the last thing we trying to do is about the orchestrating. Currently orchestrating is Veeam have a very good like the recovery orchestrator. They are doing a good job. But sometimes we wanted to notify and the customer when they want to do the recovery orchestrator things, and the AI can provide assistant for them, let them to know what is the next step and what is the last step result. Is that working or not? And let them to use that easily. Sometimes our customers, they don't have very technical skills in hands, and they need us to help. But the orchestrator is just automatically tools. If we spend too many manpower on that, that is not the cost saving way. So that's why we are using the AI to do the assistant for them.
Yeah, right. So you're driving efficiency, and like you said, you've got 30 people in the company. So using AI technology like that lets you be a lot more efficient, but also still provide a good service to your customers for what they want in terms of data protection. Last question around ransomware. So ransomware and cybersecurity, obviously very, very big. I don't talk about it very much on these shows because I think it gets talked to death. But in the China market, what do you see in the China market when it comes to ransomware attacks and cybersecurity? Is it happening as much in China as what is happening outside of China?
In China, much happening. It definitely. Trust me, definitely. And that's the thing, that story I just told you before. When they want to move the data or the application publicly on the cloud or even data center, they don't have the sense to make their application or the hosting services security. They just think about the cost. When you think about the cost, you might be having a ransomware attack in the future days. So we tell our customer a lot about this thing, but they didn't care. But one day they will find us back. Albert, we have the ransomware attack. Could you help me to protect data? So that's the thing that we have met many times in the past years. And just last week, I have some customer call us. They have the ransomware attack.
There you go. So it is happening, and this is what you guys do. You help customers recover from those attacks because you've got backup services, DR services. You've got SupVault that does the on-premises appliance stuff. It's great. Just the last question: what's in the future for BackupNow? What are you planning? What disruptions in the market are you looking to do to continue to grow your business?
Okay, so actually that's pretty clear. BackupNow is kind of the platform company. We have integrated the engine to back up the data and provided the backup service and restore service for our client. And so also we have to do some data regulation for the data control to data appliance in the local market, ensure the people can keep the data safely. And the third is about most our visionary is we will help our customer or the client to use their backup data to do this, maybe develop like the big data, like the data.
Wow, yep.
Yes, that's the things we need to them to know the value of the data. So that's the things it's like kind of the platform company should to do.
That's very powerful, I think, and it's a really good direction to go because unlocking that data as a data protection company, you control the data. And there's a lot of power in that data that's unlocked. So well done for doing that. Hey, let's finish up. But before we finish, I just want to give you an opportunity in Chinese to give a bit of a message out to people that might be listening to this about your company. So give a little bit of a shout out to BackupVault in Chinese for me.
我们是数据管理专家，我们对您的数据防护 还原有的非常专业的解决方案。
Awesome. Well done, mate. Good stuff. Hey, Albert, great to have you on, and thanks for being on the show. It's been really interesting. I love the chat about the China market. Love the chat about what you're doing in that market and also worldwide, getting some good recognition. So just as a final note, if you're new here and would like to feature on future episodes, please go to GTwGT.com, hit the like and subscribe button. A big thank you to Albert Fu and BackupNow for being on episode 71 of Great Things with Great Tech. Thank you.
Thank you.